Welcome back to This Week in Film, the podcast where we spend our time together talking about the movies we've watched over the past 7 days. It's week 13? Is it week 13?
Yeah, it is.
Week 13.
Lucky number 13.
Yeah.
I'm Nick Panuzzo, and the two voices you just heard were that of Charlie Chester and Ray Rayndom.
What's going on, guys?
Hello.
We're back at it again. Ray, I'm sure you watched something. Tell us what it is.
This week, I watched The Monster Squad, directed by Fred Dekker and written by Shane Black. It's an old classic of mine, one of my favorite movies growing up.
You can't see the big smile on my face right now. It's huge.
Yeah, apparently Charlie has the same feelings about it that I do. When I was a little kid, I actually had a VHS tape of The Monster Squad and The Little Monsters on the same VHS tape, and I just watched it over and over and over again. It's got a special place in my heart. I try to watch it, every so often. This week I felt the need. It's a fun little movie featuring the Universal monsters. Dracula, the Wolfman, the Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Mummy. It's about these young kids who form a monster squad to fight all these Universal monsters that have invaded their town.
When Nick Fury shows up to collect them all, what does that seem like?
It actually, it's kind of a precursor to what we're seeing now with all the Avengers and Justice League stuff that's going on in the current times.
It's a classic.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a movie that probably could not be made today with the fact that features very young kids cursing, smoking cigarettes. Well, I guess it would have to be like a rated R movie today. I think it's PG-13.
They look really cool.
I think 1987. So many good one-liners that still to this day, I still quote all the time.
Honestly, Nick, if you watch it today, there's that jump in time, you got to watch this movie that I saw as a kid.
Right.
And you still watch it and love it. I still watch Labyrinth and love it. But someone who hasn't watched Labyrinth ever and tries to watch it now is like, that is awful.
That was me. That was me with Labyrinth.
For somebody to watch this movie now, it'd be interesting to see if you like it as much as me and Charlie do, because we liked it so much as we were kids.
I saw it at least once when I was a kid, but the only thing I remember is the
Wolfman's got nards.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Kick him in the nards. Kick him in the nards.
Wolfman's got nards.
The movie's got one of the greatest character actors of all time in it. Thomas Noonan.
Is that the guy who plays Dracula?
No, he plays Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, right.
And
also
it's so dynamic.
He's a big Michael Mann guy.
Yes.
He plays...
Who's Thomas Noonan?
He plays the killer in Manhunter. And then he's in Heat also. He plays the guy that that gives the plans, Robert De Niro.
Oh, the mustache guy with long hair?
No, that's John Voight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Huh.
Noonan's in this shack in the middle of nowhere, and they show up, and he's like...
he's the dude in the wheelchair.
Yeah, he's
really tall.
He's like, it's all out there, you're just going to pull it out and take it.
Yeah, just grab it from the sky. But anyway, he plays Frank. He's a really tall actor. He's got to be 6'6", 6'7". Yeah. So he plays Frankenstein.
Uncle Rico plays the Wolfman.
Yeah, you're right. Uncle Rico does play the Wolfman. And it's just got all the classic, rules for... Dracula can't go out in the sun. You can only kill a werewolf with silver bullets. Just the typical stuff.
The monsters are the good guys, or
no? The monsters are some monsters. Frankenstein's a good guy,
right?
But then Dracula's kind of like the leader, and he's the one bringing all these monsters back from the dead. The Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Mummy.
And Dracula's vicious.
Right.
Personally, I think he's one of the best Draculas in all the Dracula movies.
He really is.
This version of Dracula is top notch.
He takes no prisoners, kills people without regard.
He's like Batman.
Right. Exactly. He's like Batman. Yeah, just like a classic popcorn movie from the 80s that I think still holds up.
Yeah.
I got, of all the movies we've watched, I can't wait to watch this one.
Yeah, it's great.
So, Monster Squad, I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, that was definitely, you needed to pick me up after watching Amy last week.
Yes.
I could tell.
That'll bring you down.
It's real life, guys.
But on a lighter note, this week I watched the movie Big Trouble in Little China, directed by John Carpenter and starring Kurt Russell.
Another one of my favorites. Is Russell wearing a cool hat in this one?
Not some stupid cowboy hat. So I've seen this movie a dozen times, and I never understood what it was about. It was just an adventure movie.
Just string of events.
It just seems like redneck Indiana Jones in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
And what I figured out watching it this time is that all this always happens in Chinatown in San Francisco, what we're seeing in this universe,
Right.
this is always going on. There are constant kung fu battles in alleys. There's Raiden from Mortal Kombat is always dropping down to zap people. And this is the first time that an outsider, who is Kurt Russell, is there to see it. The whole movie, Kurt Russell has no idea what's going on. He just wants his truck back. He drives this Mack truck, and they had to run away from it because there was a gang war happening around him.
Right.
And when they go back, the bad guys have stolen his truck.
How does he get sucked into it?
He literally drives into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He makes his delivery in Chinatown, and then he just goes to hang out with some of the guys he knows there. One of the guys, the character's name is Wang. I forget the actor. They have to go to the airport to pick up this guy's girlfriend who's coming to America from China. They're at the airport, and Kim Cattrall is there. For whatever reason, she's there to pick up her own Chinese friend, which makes sense because it's a plane coming from China. And there's a lot of like weird race things that happen in this movie, but none of it I feel is racist. So
At least not to you.
at least not to me. So Kim Cattrall's at the airport getting her own friend. We're picking up Wang's friend. Kurt Russell gets into a fight with these Chinese gang members. One of them is wearing the coolest but dumbest sunglasses you've ever seen. Instead of the Venetian blinds, it's just one wavy line through the middle. And then the Chinese gang steals Wang's girlfriend, and they get away. And Kurt Russell is mad about it. And basically he's in. From that point on, he's like, we're getting your girl back. And then they lose his truck, and then he doesn't care about the girl. He just wants his truck back.
Is this Kurt Russell, like, 80s tight jeans, cowboy boots?
Oh, yeah. He wears these cowboy boots that serve every purpose he could ever. He has a knife that he keeps tucked into his boot, and the knife can come out the bottom of the boot, or the blade comes out the bottom, or the blade comes out the top, depending on whatever he needs the boot to do.
Yeah. Kurt Russell in movies has magical boots.
They go back to the restaurant that Wang owns, and Kim Cattrall shows up, and they just go, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I'm Kim Cattrall." And they go, "Okay, well, you're part of the team now." I'm not even kidding. She just shows up and becomes part of their group.
That's how groups are formed.
And then what I was trying to say earlier is this movie is just supposed to be a regular Chinese Hong Kong kung fu movie that happens to take place in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And just so happens that Kurt Russell is there.
Right.
Like,
He
he
represents American culture.
He represents either the viewer or just American,
the outsider.
Yeah, it's a fish out of water story.
Right, okay.
Because Kurt Russell has no idea what's going on. Everyone has to keep explaining to him. It's an old story. Don't worry about it. Just follow us along for the ride. There's a lot of great but violent action, but no blood. Some of the street fights, you see people's legs just breaking or heads crushing against walls.
But with no blood?
No blood or anything, which I thought was different, especially for a John Carpenter movie to be.
It's just sound effects and
sound effects and just visual
effects. And it still works. Right?
Works great. Yeah.
After last week we talked about The Thing and how like bloody that gets.
Yeah. The Raiden comes down from the sky from Mortal Kombat. There's 3 of them. I just like how much the Mortal Kombat just ripped off Raiden, ripped off these guys to make Raiden. I don't know if you remember, but it sounds like Kurt Russell is doing a straight-up John Wayne impression. But I don't know if that's just how Kurt Russell talks.
I don't know. Like the more we're talking about this, the more I'm remembering about it. If he's representing like American culture getting intertwined with this,
then he's like this.
That is American culture.
Like the honky tonk type of person.
You know, and that's kind of brilliant.
The bad guy in the movie, Lupai? I can't remember.
Is that the guy with the long, creepy nails?
Yeah. I think it's Lupai. He keeps saying that whoever his bride will be, which is either Wang's girlfriend or Kim Cattrall, whoever his bride will be needs to be able to handle the burning blade. And every time he says that, all I can picture is that's a euphemism for an STD.
Yeah.
Oh, and the dude who plays Lupai's opposite, Victor Wong, it took me forever to figure out what I remember him from, but he's the grandpa from the Three Ninjas movie.
Nice.
There's a couple of gruesome monsters in the movie for no reason that is never explained other than ancient magic. There's this terrifying cave spider. There's a floaty monster head, and then just this monster out of Masters of the Universe that runs around.
It's all Chinese.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Ancient Chinese secret.
You know,
I really enjoyed this movie. once I figured out that it's a kung fu movie that Kurt Russell just walks into, it takes on this whole other, like, you really just get it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Big Trouble in Little China.
Shit,
Worth
I
every
Have
second.
to recheck it out.
I want to teach a John Carpenter masterclass at this point. He got me all excited about Carpenter again.
And Charlie, rounding third.
Mm-hmm. I watched a movie that you're not going to know by title. I don't think anyone has ever even seen this movie. But it is bad. It is a movie called The Burning, 1981.
Good year.
Yeah. Oh, great year. And it's a slasher flick, but it is a sleepaway camp sort of slasher flick. So, like, at that time, you guys know,
like Friday the 13th.
yeah, it is running rampant. Harvey Weinstein, at this point, new to the game.
Yeah, early on.
Yep. Writes the thing.
What?
Oh, wrote it.
Wrote it. And it's one of the first movies they ever produced before they move on and create Miramax and work with Disney and whatnot. This might ruin any career that I might have in film talking about this, but it is awful. And it's obviously such a bite off of, like, Friday the 13th. Like,
what's your name? Chad Schmester?
the highlights here is that, okay, there's this camp, and there's a bunch of little kids in the camp, and the groundskeeper is just a real asshole. Like, they don't like him, right? And so they want to play a prank on the dude, and he's a drunk too. So he drinks himself stupid, and he just falls asleep all the time. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is that, he drinks himself silly, falls asleep, and these kids want to play a prank on him. The kids somehow built a prop that, like Hollywood couldn't even build. Like, they barely, it's a really good looking, like, creepy skull with candles in its eyes and bugs crawling all around it. I'm like, how the hell did these kids make it? They can't even make macrame in, like, camp, but they built this amazing thing that looks real. So they put it in his room and then knock on the window to get him to wake up and see it and freak him out. So he wakes up, freaks the F out. The candle skull falls over on his bed. And you realize that he's sleeping in a room full of gasoline cans. He just knocks over gasoline cans.
There's nowhere else to store them, I guess.
Yeah. So, like, he runs out and runs into the water. The kids just looking on, and, like, they're like, oh, shit, we did this. And then they run away. The guy survives, apparently. They let him go after 5 years being in the burn ward.
Jesus.
No one gets a conviction. None of these kids get a conviction.
Kids get off scot-free.
Yeah, they get off scot-free. And on top of
That's
that,
camp.
one of the kids becomes a camp counselor.
I mean, if anybody is going to know the benefits of fire safety, it'll be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's lived it.
So 5 years have passed now. This guy, the burn victim, wearing this crazy getup, like a dark man getup, like just rags and stuff, and he's trying to integrate back into society, but people don't want him. Prostitutes are, like, freaked out. He finally kills somebody because he can't handle it, and he's like, at this point, he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go kill some kids now. So he comes to the camp. Now let me set up the camp, because the camp is amazing. These are full-grown men with young girls. Like, the girls look like younger, like they belong there. But these are full-grown men interacting with them, and
they're supposed to be playing kids.
Yes, they're supposed to be playing kids. So, like, these adult men are flirting and have, like, these, like, kids lines. But
so it's like a 30-year-old playing a 16-year-old?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And one of the main guys in it is a young Jason Alexander, and he's got a full head of hair, and he's like the fun guy that everyone loves to hang out with, but he's very sexual with these girls, and it's so uncomfortable to watch. Now, there's a guy there, I want to say his name is, like, Laser, and he's the bad guy.
He's like the cool, like, all your typical stereotypes.
Every archetype you could imagine is part of this. So they are going to go on a camping trip, like an overnight thing where they have to canoe there, and they have to be more secluded. How else are you going to kill them all, right? So they have to go there. They get there, and then they start getting picked off one by one. But the craziest thing happens while they're there. First off, we see this guy, what he looks like is burns. But he looks like he's got cold cuts all over him. He doesn't look like that's their version of, like, a burn victim. He's just got loose cold cuts.
Loose skin hanging everywhere.
Yeah, it's not the greatest effect in the world. These girls are out with them in the middle of nowhere, and they all start like pairing up a little bit, you know, going on walks with some of the guys, and every one of the guys is rapey. They're all have this like thing about them where like they're forcing themselves on these girls, and the girls are fighting them the whole time until eventually they succumb to it, and like they make it seem like this is young romance, and it's so creepy because these guys are men. It's just what these writers think kids are like. There is a lot of date rape and a lot of settling for these girls in this movie.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the burning.
That was week 13 of the This Week in Film podcast.
All right.
Ray, we had a bunch of answers to last week's Ray's Rayndom Rayquest.
Great. Let's hear them.
I believe the question was, what was the most disappointing movie to you? Kind of a
hyped up movie that you're really excited for that eventually was not as good as you thought it was going to be.
Christine says both of the Sex and the City movies.
Yeah, I was disappointed with those two.
With Big Trouble in Little China's Kim Cattrall.
Right. What a tie-in.
And then a lot of our podcasting friends chimed in. The Afterburn 739 podcast said the movie Ironweed, which I had never heard of.
I don't know what that
Jack
is.
Nicholson and Meryl Streep. I don't know anything about it. The Crossover podcast said The Last Airbender.
Oh, yeah.
Which
who thought that was going to be good?
The Bad Films and Good Company podcast, they said Ocean's 12, which I could not agree with more.
See, I kind of like Ocean's 12.
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I love Ocean's 11
I liked it
so much.
I liked all three.
They just never captured that magic from the first one.
Yeah, well,
they tried. Black Hole Cinema said Avengers Age of Ultron.
Which is kind of weird.
I definitely agree with that.
I disagree. And Dan says The Dark Knight Rises, which I used to agree with, but no longer do. It really makes a lot more sense on multiple viewings.
I think that movie just got put up against The Dark Knight, which is, you're never going to top that.
Right.
So people were expecting that to be better than it, and it wasn't going to be.
Dan also would like us to spend some time in the future going deeper into why we didn't like Avatar.
Oh,
Wow.
Dan, it's going to come.
Yeah.
I want to answer Ray's question really quick because my buddy Chris is going to vehemently disagree with me. But the movie Congo, as a kid, I was so excited about that movie.
Oh, yeah, me too. I read that book too. Yeah.
I read it and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then when Tim Curry comes out with that amazingly terrible accent, it just ruins the movie.
I forgot about that. And what was yours, Ray?
Mine, along the lines of The Last Airbender, The Happening. I used to be a big M. Night Shyamalan fan, and that movie I was so excited for, and that might be the worst movie I've ever seen in theaters.
Yeah,
it was
pretty
terrible.
Yeah, that movie was really bad. But I watched that movie, I told you this last week, I watched that movie right after we watched, me and my buddy Matt, we watched that right after we saw Lady in the Water. Anything you watch after Lady in the Water, Oscar-winning movie.
Yeah.
Ray, where can the people find us?
The good people can find us on SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Twitter, and thisweekinfilmpodcast.com.
All right, and Charlie, you have some exciting information.
I've been teasing it for so long, but as of yesterday, Amazon.com now has my books.
Nice.
Boy Zero Volume 1, Boy Zero Volume 2, and if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get free shipping on them. Full graphic novels, over 140 pages a piece. I think you'll like them.
Very
Pretty good reads.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Check it out.
I'm stoked about it.
Ray, what is your Rayndom request for this week?
Okay, so going along with the Monster Squad this week, name a movie that you liked as a kid and you had to see the movie before you turned 15 years old in order to really appreciate it now. Like for the Monster Squad, if you don't like it now, it's probably, if you watch it now for the first time, it's probably because you didn't see it when you were a kid.
Right. Or when I saw Labyrinth as a 28-year-old and when I should have watched it when I was 9.
Yeah, it
does not hold up.
Right.
You got to have those kid blinders on in order to appreciate some things. Well, that's week 13. Thanks a lot for listening. Please rate, review us on iTunes. We'd really appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments for us, send them along. Other than that, we'll see you next week.
See you.
Later, guys.